Is the Earth a run-of-the-mill planet, or is it rare, maybe even unique? Does the Earth have features that reflect its design by an omnipotent, all-powerful, all-knowing, all-good creator? I'm joined today by Barry Wynn, who is a chemical engineer and a Christian, to help answer that question. Barry, you have quite a bit of experience working with phosphates.
Yes.
And we've had a couple of episodes where we talked about the role that phosphates play in the design of life,
Yes.
the problems that phosphates pose for an evolutionary explanation for the origin of life.
Right.
And I think people watching this might be surprised to learn that we just simply can't take phosphorus for granted on this planet, that the fact that Earth has phosphorus seems to make the Earth unique and special.
Yes.
Astronomers have discovered something recently about the abundance of phosphate and phosphorus on Earth and other planets. What was it that they discovered?
This was very interesting because astronomers know that the heavier elements are created in nucleosynthesis in supernova, in exploding stars. And they were studying the presence, or looking for the presence of phosphorus and iron in particular in different supernovae. And they found, to their surprise, that one supernova was very deficient, and another one had some phosphorus. But their concern was, well, if we cannot, if you were count on phosphorus being present in typical supernovae, that means that the presence of phosphorus throughout the universe is somewhat questionable. We can't take it for granted. So they're interested in doing research on more supernovae to see if, in fact, it's common to find phosphorus in supernovae or not. But it is true that the Earth is relatively abundant in phosphorus. We find it in huge sedimentary deposits of calcium phosphate that were left over from animal and plant remains. We find it in island deposits. We find it in some igneous deposits. But it's relatively very abundant in the Earth's crust, which astronomers are concerned may be not the case in most parts of the universe.
Yeah. So how does the phosphorus get here on Earth? Was it part of the gaseous nebula that condensed to form our solar system, or were there other mechanisms that maybe provided the Earth with phosphorus?
Right. Well, one of the mechanisms that has gained a lot of traction is delivery by meteorites, because meteorites have been found to contain calcium phosphate, which is relatively insoluble, but also phosphides, iron nickel phosphides, a mineral called schreibersite. And estimates have been made of the likely delivery rate, like during the late heavy bombardment. And the calculations show that indeed a significant portion of phosphorus could have been delivered by meteorites during that time. And it's interesting, about 10 years ago, a paper was published by Indian researchers where they found a geological sort of discontinuity that indicated at a certain time that there was a large delivery of phosphorus. It was a layer of carbonate stromatolites, and above it was phosphate stromatolites, indicated sort of a sudden arrival, if you will, geologically sudden arrival of phosphorus. So meteorite delivery seems to be a plausible avenue for delivery. The other thing that's interesting is that the phosphides are a lot more soluble in water than the phosphates. So the whole idea of a phosphide delivery seems to mesh well with possible chemical pathways to the first biomolecules containing phosphorus.
Now, when we talk about the fact that, again, we just simply can't take phosphorus for granted, make that the connection between that and why, as Christians, we would say that the Earth appears to be designed.
Yes. Well, there are an enormous number of parameters associated with the Earth that make it perfectly designed, apparently designed, for advanced life to exist. Everything from the size of our moon, the distance that we are from the sun, the so-called Goldilocks zone, and you can go on and on and on. There are lots of features of the Earth, but the chemistry of Earth, like the chemistry of water, for example, and its important features that are necessary for life to exist, And of course, as we've talked about, the features of phosphorus that make it an important component of biomolecules, all, when looking at it together, suggest did not happen by chance. This had to have been designed, and therefore it's evidence of a mind.
And to me, what's really provocative is things that we simply would take for granted or that we just would be tempted to overlook
Yes.
actually constitute part of that inventory of features that make the Earth seem to be special and hence designed.
Yes, indeed.